Welcome to Otherworld. I'm your host, Jack Wagner. This is the second part of a two-part series. If you haven't heard part one, you should go back and start with that. Last episode, we heard from Alex. He was extremely cooped up during the COVID-19 lockdown and decided to go on a camping trip in the Uhwarries forest. And I could really relate to that. Camping was literally one of the only things you can do around then, and I did it a lot. And all the campsites were closed, so I would just basically drive out into the woods or desert and find a place. Luckily, nothing weird happened to me while I was out there, but during Alex's camping trip, he experienced a lot of very strange things. And when he got back, he started researching, and things seemed to point towards Bigfoot. He eventually spoke to his roommate about it, and then the two of them decided to go back into the woods. For me, I might have been too scared to do that, but I think for Alex, it was at least partly to prove to himself that he didn't imagine it. I think he was really curious and just wanted to know more, and curiosity is very, very powerful. So in this episode, we're going to hear from Alex about his version of that second trip, and then we're going to talk to his roommate Julian about his experience of the entire thing. This is episode 34, the Uhwarries Part 2, and you're listening to Otherworld.
Hello?
Is this Bobby?
Yes, it is.
You still rolling?
Yeah, let us know when you're ready.
Okay.
How's it feel for ask some questions?
Can you tell me?
Samoa in the Pacific Islands get pretty superstitious.
This is a story about
Just like comes out like that.
Okay, so it's been about 2 months at this point. I have had a time to kind of process this experience. I explained to my roommate Julian what exactly happened. He's like, I want to say he's open but still skeptical, which of course, but he's willing to go with me to see if anything weird happens again, because I am at a point where like I'm kind of past the fear almost, and I am just so curious that I just need to find out what the fuck this place is about. So we decided to go with our other friend Steven in I think it's early December. And we also, okay, so this is another thing that people are probably going to have a hard time with, but we decide to do a very small dose of psilocybin mushrooms, which again, like when you bring in hallucinogenics to an experience like this, it instantly discredits, but hiked to the same place.
Dude, how did you have... The last time, like, traumatized you how scary it was? Like, why would you go out there and take drugs?
It's a good question. I needed some closure, I think. I know that sounds weird, but... yeah, obviously when I'm retelling this story, it's like, if you don't know who I am, it's definitely going to sound bizarre and like some possibly some weird behavior, but that's just I don't know. I just felt like that would be an interesting thing to do. And the reason I wanted to do that is because I felt at the time that this could possibly facilitate this telepathic experience that I had. I thought it might be interesting to do. So we make the plans, we go out there. We're lucky that no one was out there again this time. The parking lot's completely empty. We hiked down to the same place. I'm very freaked out at this point. I'm just nervous for obvious reasons because I haven't been back since then. And so we do a little exploring, and we hike up to the place where I heard the footsteps coming down from. And up on this hill is a ring of boulders, like giant granite rocks, basically. And there is this figure that appears behind a tree about 50 feet away that Julian sees first, actually. And it is like this black, covered in fur, like a round head with no neck and really long arms, and it's just swaying back and forth behind the tree, and it's just looking at us. I am not in a position where I can see the face because Julian is sitting like on a rock higher up than me, like maybe 5 feet away, so he has a different angle. But I can see the head, I can see the arm, and I can see the hair coming off its elbow, like an orangutan. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like they have like that long hair on the elbow. Yeah, so it had that. And it's, while we're looking at it, Julian is just, we're both in shock, obviously, because I was not expecting this to happen. I was just expecting, well, I didn't know what I was expecting but to happen, but definitely was not expecting this to happen, and so quickly too. When we start walking down the hill, Julian's like, oh my god, like, holy shit, this is real. Like, I can't fucking believe this. You were making this up. And I get in my tent and I'm like, all right, that's enough for me. I'm just gonna go to sleep now, which is funny because it's like in the middle of the day and I'm just feeling extremely tired for some reason. But I lie down and I take a nap for a little bit, and I wake up to the voices of Steven and Julian say, Alex, get the fuck out here. And as I exit my tent, I see them looking at this cluster of bluish white orbs in the treetop. And it's like 7 or 8 of them, and they're all bunched up close together, and they're moving in like a figure 8 motion, like kind of like swaying, you know? So we're all freaking out, obviously, like just a lot of, oh my god, that kind of thing. I'm looking around us and I see more of these clusters, and I'm thinking like, holy shit. And they kind of hang out with us for a long time. And at some point we kind of make a fire and just sort of sit around and we just look at them for what seems like a couple hours almost. So these things are hovering around us for a little bit. They start to like fly in circles around the perimeter of our camp. Like they look like shooting stars almost, like they leave a streak kind of, and they're going like very quickly. And it's like there's people might say these might have been like there's something called a blue ghost firefly, or there are other like rare types of luminescent insects that live in North Carolina, but they don't live in Uhwarrie, and this is not the time of year, and there's no way that these things could move this quickly and act this intelligently too. That's another thing. These things seem to respond to us speaking to them, basically. At some point we kind of decide that, all right, this is enough, we're just gonna go sleep, and just kind of that'll be that. And also I'll add that the feeling this time was very, very pleasant, honestly. Like I was not scared at all, which is very interesting. I felt very welcoming, or I felt very welcome. I felt very calm. Yeah, it was kind of a good time, honestly. And when we get in the tent, all the lights are extinguished. The fire has completely died out. We had left like some chocolates and like some little stones that we had brought, because I'd read about like gifting or whatever from like Sasquatch people. And again, it's not like I believe that would work, but here's the crazy thing. On the little slate rock that we left the chocolates and the stones, these lights have started to appear, and we all saw them. We all were like, are we seeing the same thing, everybody? Like, can we? And they looked like little burning coals that just sort of appeared out of nowhere. And again, they formed a circle around the little slate altar that we made, and the motion that they were making looked like dancing. I know that sounds weird to say about like a little ball of light, but we all kind of made that assessment. Like, it looks like they're happy about this, or it looks like they are pleased or something, you know. It's just we're all, again, just in a state of shock still while this is going on. And this is reaching the part of the story where this is a detail that I often leave out because it is truly exceptionally absurd. But again, like the only way I can verify this is if you talk to Julian, which I'm sure he'll talk to you about this and he'll verify it. But this is when the military showed up, and it was about, I want to say 20 to 30 guys just walking down the trail with headlamps and rifles. They walked down the trail, like parallel to where we were at. The lights that we were seeing over the altar dissipated completely, and they just walk right past us. Stephen was very freaked out by this. He thought that we were going to get murdered or something, but they either didn't see us or they saw us and just ignored us. But that was the last thing that happened that night. We just went to sleep after they left, but it's just so strange. Like, these events seem to happen in sequence to each other or something. Like, maybe it's just coincidence, but yeah, it's so odd that the army just showed up after these like orange lights showed up. So yeah, and again, oftentimes I'll leave that detail out because it's just so fucking absurd, but that is what happened. And that's the end of the second trip. So
I'm Julian. Let's see, I've known Alex for a while. He got hired to work at a bar that I was managing, like doing food prep and bar back work. So, I mean, my initial impression, because I saw him walking up the sidewalk, I just thought that maybe he did some sort of ballet or dance. His posture was very good, which I don't know. I at this point attribute to maybe just being like his father's a chiropractor. So I don't know, maybe that has something to do with it. But regardless, I thought as he approached, he seemed level postured. And then as I got to know him, he seemed level headed, well-read, well-informed, pretty objective with his opinions, not too emotionally driven. Actually not, I mean, when I say not too, compared to most people that I run into, very little emotion drives him as far as being reactionary. You know, it's like, basically just saying that someone's not crazy is I mean, it's true, but it's like, in regards to this phenomena, I mean, like, what does that even mean? We don't even know what the fuck's going on. So is he eccentric? Perhaps. Yeah. I mean, is he more solitary since COVID? Sure. I think a lot of people are in those ways, especially since that time. But, like, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just jump into him returning from the forest. So in his return from that initial camping trip, it was very evident that he was, like, highly emotional. Clearly something had occurred. So, like, to be honest, the reason I'm even doing this interview, it's not something I want to do because it's not something that I care to broadcast. And I like my private life. I'm only doing this because I care about him, and also because this matters a lot to him, and also because, this hasn't been necessarily, like, if we're speaking of it being good or bad for his life, mentioning this to people hasn't made more friends for him. It happening, I think also too, it should be clearly indicated that his experience in the forest was different than the one that I had when I went with him and another friend. And so that first experience, I don't think at all was pleasant. And so if we're speaking about that as some sort of trauma, like, who do you talk to that is qualified, let's say, to deal with that? Because it's not just a general psychological or psychiatric, if it is, again, trauma issue. It's something that's involving, paranormal. So you almost need a psychologist who's gone through that, or who understands that well, or at least, I don't know. So I feel like my being here is on his behalf because I saw what I saw. Yeah, so he came back early, like at this time, and I'm still his roommate, like, it's 2023 now, right? 2020 then. I was upstairs, it's a 2-story. We switched since then because I got an extra room to do yoga work in Arden. But at the time I was upstairs, so he returned early. I think he had left the night before, or the day before rather, to Uhwarries, which is, I don't know, like an hour and a half, something like that away. So he came back. I remember the door opened at, like, it was quite early. It was like before 8 a.m. And I was still switching from like a bartending sort of circadian rhythm, so that was like early for me. But door opened, he came back. I was like, well, fuck. I was hoping this trip was going to be great for him to like off-gas emotional buildup from the lockdown and all that shit. So that was my first. I was like, that's too bad. You know, I wish he had stayed out there longer. And then I don't know if it was like later that day or the day after that I caught back up with him, and he seemed like really agitated, not angry, but like just nervous, right? And he was like, yeah, I need to talk to you about this. It's like something weird happened. I think he was just trying to digest what the fuck had happened to him. And so at some point he like started, as you would do with something that, again, is hard to believe with somebody that's close to you. You almost want to like feel out how they're going to register what you're mentioning, something that happened to you. So in pieces, perhaps, things came out. And then he was like, just began to look into, I guess, the combination of these different data points of the experience he had, which led him to looking into, right, Bigfoot. We were probably sitting on the couch. We might have, like it might have been dinner time or something like that. I was like, yeah, so why'd you come back early? I'm sure that was something I asked. Like, what's going on, right? I mean, he had mentioned that he had camped out in Uhwarries, in this particular place that he just hiked into, that he had pitched a tarp, I believe, so that he just had an open sort of area that was just covered from anything that would, like any precipitation, but not really a closed wall tent. And that, like, some of the first things that happened were, as night began to fall, maybe before, he had noticed, I don't know which one came first, but he had noticed like a ball of light moving through the trees. Rocks were thrown at his tent or the tarp. That he had heard this kind of whooping, or yop. I don't know what something that sounded more monkeyish than human. That he had heard footsteps that were heavy. That at some point there had been a strange sort of some kind of transference, right, energetically, whether it's via consciousness or directly into thoughts. And let's see, I think that was about it. So, so I'm hearing that, like, clearly something had happened to him. This is what he is telling me it was. I know him to not be prideful or to want attention, right? He often avoids it. I know him to be quite well-read, informed, level-headed. So that's where I was. And then he begins to do deeper and deeper research and to begin to make connections. And I, leading up to this this trip where I go with him, which was December, it's like I think it was early or mid-December, something like that. He's mentioning, or he's beginning to connect things in his research, and he's mentioning them to me. And
what was going through your head at this point? Was there any aspects of concern, or maybe what's going on with my friend right now? What were you thinking at this time?
I wasn't thinking what's going on with my friend as far as him in the household after returning from the trip. If you're speaking about like whether the thought of like a mental breakdown or nervous breakdown was occurring, that wasn't at all going through my head. The questions of the connections that he was making with his research and his experience as to how valid they were was going through my head. The possibility of my experiencing something similar to that was going through my head, but I wasn't really hopeful for it. I was just trying to like be an ear for somebody that clearly had been affected by something. And I was, I was also at least a little enthused that he had something that was giving him a reason to pour himself intellectually and energetically into a field of any sort of research or occupying his time, right? Because, yeah, we both were coming from the food and beverage industry, and the bottom of that blew out, right? So, like, I have my means of staying busy and interacting with people, and I felt like, if anybody that didn't know him were to argue to the point that he was fabricating this, that maybe they would point that out, right? Like he needed something to do, but that's not how I see it. I was just happy that he had that. So, in the approach of the day that we had set to go, I was like, okay, like maybe something will happen. I don't know. Like, I don't mean this, like, I really don't mean this religiously, but like, I like to see the devil. I mean, like, I want to know fear. That's a fun emotion to work through as far as what it produces. I like to do boxing training. I like to confront some of those. I mean, those are two different things, but let's just say that feeling in general, I think, is the only thing to fear, right? Like the quote says, whoever said that. So I wasn't looking for that necessarily, but I didn't have that feeling going into it. I more had the feeling of this means a lot to my friend. If I am to see something, maybe I'll have the feeling if I do see something that I'm simply lucky, right? That I'm fortunate to be proximate to something like this, regardless of whether or not it's explainable in my lifetime or it's acceptable culturally, or even if it's not. That has nothing to do with, I just, if I'm to witness something remarkable, that would be cool. And if not, I'll just be on a camping trip for a night with two of my friends in the cold, who gives a fuck? Like I grew up camping in the cold. That's not a big deal. And if nothing happens, then fuck it. All right, maybe I'll come back or maybe I won't. It was just decided we're going to go. We'll do this on this date. I get a tent for the occasion because I know it's going to be cold. So it's like a base camp sort of super cold weather thing. We hike in, we set the tent. I mentioned we all took some mushrooms. I don't remember the dosage, but it was less than 2. It was probably in the 1.3, 1.5.
What was the thinking with the mushrooms?
I don't know. I mean, we're just like, because again, like I'm on a camping trip with friends, and I need to chill fuck out from the gravity of nervous anxiety related to the lockdown. Not this. Like,
so you guys are kind of having like you're not really going on a research trip. You're like, hey, let's go on a camp out.
I'm not going no, because like, okay, if it's research, then what are the instruments for registering things? Like, what's the thesis to gather, and like, how could it be specified from the abstract of something unexplainable and something not? Like, and I'm not qualified to do that, and it's not my interest. Maybe Alex felt like it was research. Maybe, I don't want to speak for him, but. And I think I mentioned this in our interview last time. Like, I don't think discounting whether or not, again, like it comes back to the word, whatever the fuck real means, but like perhaps the alteration, even if it's slight, because that's what I am trying to stress, that the dosage was slight, but even if that slight change in neurochemistry is caused by psilocybin mushrooms, even if that does produce something that people say is hallucination, perhaps the other way to view it is that it's allowing, right, something to be viewed. That's also possible. I mean, I'm not here to like argue against, because again, like there's plenty of intelligent friends of mine that write the entire thing off because of that consuming of psilocybin mushrooms. But yeah, I mean, perhaps they're related to the ability to view something like this. I don't know, but I do know that I've done enough trips, and I've done them with a variety of strains and dosages. Anyway, it doesn't matter for me, the mushroom part. I'm just mentioning it because I want to be transparent completely in as many details as possible as to the state of mind I was in, what was in my body, right? What was outside my body.
All right, I'm just jumping in to say that normally I try to avoid stories that feature any kind of drug use for obvious reasons. I'm making an exception on this one for two reasons. Reason one is that this is just such a weird story that I really don't care in this case. And two is that they really were not taking a big dose of these mushrooms. If you look at any kind of dosage guide, 1 gram of mushrooms they're probably going to giggle a little bit, but they're not going to see the type of things that they ended up seeing. I would just keep that in mind. And also the fact that a lot of the things that eventually happened to them in this story are either before or long after these mushrooms would have even been affecting them. So I'm going to let him explain, but I figured that was worth mentioning.
So yeah, we take those after we had set tent. We're walking up a hill. This place was in, I guess, like between two ridges, and they're small, maybe like, less than 100 feet vertically. So we're ascending that, and this is probably, I don't know, between like 1 and 2:30, I would guess, 12:30 maybe even, where we arrived at the site and then set the tent to begin to ascend this ridge just to look around. Because I don't believe Alex did that his first trip. And as we're ascending, the first thing happens, which this is not too strange, but again, like maybe it should be mentioned, but like my ears are popping. So I was like, oh, maybe there's a pressure change. Maybe there's a storm front coming in. That's what I was thinking. Then we go, and at the top of this ridge, there's like a cluster of, I don't know, I guess granite or quartz or just like rocks that were big enough to sit on. And we're just sitting there talking, waiting maybe, looking around, trying to be sensitive to anything that might be different than what you would expect to see in a forest landscape or near a campsite. The third of our party leaves to go back to the campsite. And then this is like the first very strange thing. So I'm sitting next to Alex. I don't know the north-southwest or anything like that, but he's to my right on a rock that's slightly higher than me. And my gaze is just drawn downhill. As I look down, I see, like, from my right side over, what appears to be somebody who's wearing a black hoodie, because the slope of the neck, or if we say trapezius muscles, right, was gradual, not abrupt and acute like most people, who aren't like lifting a lot or whatever, but it would, like, somebody wearing a hoodie would look like that. Our friend who had gone down the hill had been wearing a black hoodie, so I just presumed it was him coming back up to us. And my eyes are taking that in as I'm also saying, hey, Alex, look, it's Steven. Or maybe I just say, hey, Alex, look, whatever. I don't remember exactly what I said. But in the time that my eyes are looking at the details of what's going on and my words are saying something to get Alex's attention to look at our friend, who I think it is, I realize that this isn't a human because it swung out to where I saw about to here. Right, so I saw it here initially, then it moves to its right, like in that sort of motion. And in that time, I see a face that's not human. It's clear to me that what I thought was the slope of a hooded jacket was actually neck muscles, and the black that I thought was cloth was actually short hair. The face was hairless. The eyes were, again, the face was also shaped differently. It's more round. The eyes were larger in proportion. The pupils were larger in proportion to the eyes, so less white. I don't even know if I noticed eyelids. I don't think I saw brows. There were a lot of furrowing wrinkles here, the very narrow bridge of a nose, a shorter nose, nostrils that were wide, and you could, not flared, but you could see inside. Big cheeks, wide big lips, so they were maybe out here. No facial hair, almost like a moon-shaped face, and then the hair came along the crest, and then the crest of the skull was Not pointed, but it kind of came to a slight point, but it was rounded, and then again just went into almost what seemed to be a very muscular neck, and then kind of sloped, rounded shoulders. The impression I had was that it was almost childlike or feminine. I don't know. I couldn't tell you why I have that, other than like, I guess because the proportion of the eyes and the roundness of the face. Maybe it was just the sensing of something not being. Let's just say, like, if I were to see something that I felt threatened by in the forest, I would say that's more masculine, right? That's just maybe just from human interaction, but I didn't get that feeling. And then so as this creature kind of opens up in here, Alex begins to look back as it's like here, so he sees the side of the head and the neck. And we just saw this tree like a few weeks ago, but like the thickness of the tree and the thickness of the body weren't consistent with its disappearing behind it. The tree was much thinner than the thickness of the creature. I mean, it was gone. It went behind the tree and was not there. I don't know, man.
So it was disappearing behind a tree?
That's what I'm saying, is the thickness of the creature.
That's what you were saying, yeah.
Was thicker than the tree.
So I'm jumping in to explain because it's kind of hard to describe without using any kind of visual reference. But what these guys saw is this large creature basically peeking at them from behind a tree. If you can imagine it peeking out half of its body, and then it would go back and disappear behind the tree. But the body of this thing is so much wider than the tree that there would be no way it could hide behind this tree. Yet, when it would go back behind, it would completely disappear. So that's why it's hard to describe, and that's why they are so freaked out, aside from the fact that they were seeing what they think is Bigfoot. And part of the reason I finally understood what they were describing with this motion is that I actually found a video of this exact thing happening, and it was recorded quite close to where they are camping. So I'll put a link to that, but let's get back to the episode and let him describe what happened next.
So the motion of opening up behind the tree and going back behind it would presume that the other side of the shoulder would come out the other side. This didn't happen. It was there, and then it was behind the tree, and it was gone. When we stand up and go towards that tree, there's nothing there. It's bright enough, right? I mean, the sun had another hour or two to be set at least, so...
Do you know for sure that this was not a bear? What made you think that this was not a bear that you were seeing?
Didn't have a snout. The eye size, the lips, the facial features, almost the motion was extremely controlled. But that, I guess a bear could do that and I wouldn't notice it. But the disappearing behind a tree part, that's a big one. I mean, I don't know any humans that do that unless someone had somehow set up a very effective, like, cloaking or apparatus there in the forest, predicting us to be there. I don't know, man. It's just the face was nothing like it. It was nothing like anything I'd ever seen, real or imagined, to be honest. I mean, I haven't looked into Bigfoot stuff, so.
What was going through your head at that point, seeing this thing?
I don't know, man. I mean, it's kind of hard to like really zero in exactly what because I feel like I was flitting. I don't know if I was flitting back and forth, but I remember feeling shock and awe, like wanting to confirm that Alex had seen anything that I had seen, because I was like, I feel crazy right now viewing that for a moment, and then fear that our friend wasn't with us, because I did have a little bit of a concern then, because our other compatriot, right, that wasn't there, right? He wasn't with us. So in viewing something that I couldn't comprehend, I felt a little bit of like a little fear of like, fuck, we need to find our friend. Like, that's what I was thinking. We need to make sure something strange hasn't happened to him. And I don't mean like he has viewed something that we didn't get to see. I mean like something strange happens to him and we don't return in the same way that we entered this forest, so that was what I was thinking. So we go downhill, we find him, we go to the campsite, we tell him what we had seen. It was kind of, I don't think it was raining. It might've been like falling a little bit. We're telling our friend about this. Another strange thing had happened before we made a fire. But again, I put this in the same sort of box that I put the ear popping as far as a potential pressure change or weather phenomenon. But there was a very quick downhill rolling of like a foggy mist thing. So that happened. But again, I didn't put much stock into it. I'm just mentioning it because in hindsight, with all the other strange things that happened, like perhaps that's something to mention. Then, we decide like, hey, we should make a fire. And then we had spoken of it potentially being a night filled with stars, even though, again, there was like rain at different parts throughout our trip there. And so, again, I can't remember if we had started the fire or it was right before that, but like I look up, I'm like, oh, there's a star. And then like I'm looking and I'm looking closer and I'm realizing it's not at a celestial height, right? It's not like it's at the treetop level. And then I'm like, oh, fuck. We all stand up because that light orb was in the shape of an orb, had another few, like one or two next to it. They were off-white. And then as we stand up and we're looking, we notice there's 3 clusters of these things that are seemingly surrounding us at the tree level, like the top of the tree level. So another like instance. At this point, I'm feeling joyful again. Like that little fear thing was kind of, it dissipated after seeing our friend and just trying to chew through what the fuck had happened through conversation and thought. And then another radically curious thing occurs, and we're just watching these orbs. I'm just like kind of laughing and and at this point, it should also be mentioned that the effect of the mushrooms was waning, if not pretty much totally dissipating. And then all 3 of us saw these clusters.
If they're at the top of the trees, like how big are they? Can you make a comparison to something like?
Because I thought it was a star first, so that would be pretty small. Maybe that would be like a fist size. I feel like as we were looking at them, I believe some of them might have been larger. Grapefruit, maybe baseball. I mean, they were slightly varied in their size and color, but I would say off-white, orbed. All I know is they were like 3 loci of these stars, that looking things that were at the tree level that were directly above our head, that we were all seeing, that we were also all asking ourselves whether we were seeing to each other, or asking each other whether we were seeing them. It's just something I don't understand. So whether that's like intensely technological or intelligent, or if you want to use the word magical as something to replace that, that's what's going through my head. I don't comprehend this. I don't understand what this is. I don't know. I mean, maybe I should have like considered the possibility of being a number of other things, but is it possible somebody would it's just not. I don't know of a lighting system that can be like, I don't know. Well, one that like anyone would have a reason to, again, to like deceive a group of 3 random people on a day that's cold and wet in December in the middle of a national forest for their own entertainment or for whatever gain we can try to fathom, or whether it's like, again, I just defer to the fact that it's something that's like strange.
It's funny interviewing you. You're very cerebral, I would say, which is a good thing, but it's also funny hearing you describe these things that are wondrous. I could tell you that you're still trying to understand it in a bit,
Yeah, but I also one thing that for me that this isn't is an element of my identity, which I think it is for many others. I mean, perhaps I should allow that in. And then I also again, it's not my prerogative to convince anybody. So, yeah. So those lights happen. I brought walnuts and chocolate. We eat that. The fire's continuing. I believe it's kind of raining. The other things that started to happen too that were strange is definitely, I'm hearing things splashing around because this site was at the base of 2 kind of hill mountain things. And there were 2 little streams that kind of went into, I guess that teamed, and then around that area was a little glade or grove or whatever of a little bit of trees, and that's where we had the tent set up, and then it's facing the fire. The exit of the tent is facing the fire we made. So we're sitting there, and I'm like hearing splashes. Again, I don't know what that could be. I'm not necessarily relating that to Alex's experience of hearing things stomping around, but at this point, I've seen like two phenomena that are very, very strange. And then, so that continues. And then eventually we go to sleep. It's a 3-person tent, and we're all like facing outwards. The fire's extinguished for a good amount of time. It's, I don't know. It's probably past midnight. I think the last we talked on it, all three of us, we were like, they said it was like 12:30 or 1. I thought that was about right. But it was late at night, and it was definitely cold, close to freezing, wet. Fire's out, but we're looking out of the tent because at this point, perhaps there will be something else. And there is another phenomenon, and this is a different sort of lighting phenomenon, but they're like offset from the fire, maybe above it as well, like these little lights. Then they're different. They're not orbs. They're warmer in hue too, and they're more angular and soft, right? If like I could clearly delineate the edge of the orbs, these I would say were almost like fuzzy as far as not having the ability to discern exactly where they ended, but more angular too, not round. And there's more activity to them. And in my memory, there's a larger amount, like 20 or 30 or, maybe 10 or 15. It starts with a 1 or 2. We're all like, are you seeing this? And they're just moving, and they're close to the ground. And if somebody was like, hey, those are fairies, like, oh, okay. I get it. I get what you're saying. Like that, like maybe that looks like a creature that has wings, because that wouldn't be the most unfair description of what we saw. But again, it's like you couldn't see anything specific. It was just, but it did have this thing like angular sort of, and then like just kind of moving like this. Not fucking fireflies, not embers of the fire, like active lights in my mind. Something that seemed, dance-like. Yeah, they had more motion. They almost seemed like
they had life to them.
Yeah, they had like a conviviality to them compared. Like the orbs were still there, and they might have slightly moved, but these were like not buzzing, right? But like almost like fucking little dancing in the air things. I don't know. And then there begin to appear more in the same area. They're about 20 to 30 feet away from us horizontally as we're laying on our bellies viewing. And the numbers of the lights increased to maybe 30, but probably less than that. So they seem to be moving in some sort of manner that seemed like you could relate it to people doing like some sort of folk dance or something, right? Like a little bit of bounce, motion in and out from one another, just kind of not even, wouldn't say circling, but they're just like bobbing around there, and we're all viewing it, and it's probably going on for like 15 to 30 minutes. And it, again, cold, wet, December, early morning. And then this is the second time that I had like actual fear. I wasn't watching these, but then there's a very bright, almost metallic light, right? If we want to give characteristics, the celestial things looked almost celestial, right? Star-like, orbed. The lights that we saw that seemed fairy-like were warm, angular, fuzzy, frolicking above the ground, almost mingling with one another. And then this was like a very sharp, metallic, almost scoping light, right? And it ended up being a flashlight, the thing that we saw, but I didn't know what the fuck it was. As soon as that appears, those things are gone. And the thing's moving about. It's kind of swinging, or it's metallic. The movement of that light, like it became clear it was like a group of people, as far as I knew. Like I couldn't see out in there, but I was like, and my concern then was like, oh, this is a group of people with flashlights. Why the fuck are they here in the middle of nowhere at this time of night? Like, that's not cool. I don't know. Or maybe it is. Like maybe they're just camping, but nobody goes out at that time to set camp. So I was concerned, I was like far more afraid of a group of humans in that place and time than I was all the unexplainable stuff. And we're just sitting there watching. And then like as this group of people come closer, they kind of go, there's like a series or a couple bridges, I think, to get to where we were that you could kind of see. And there was, again, the slope that we came from. I believe they came from around there, and then they crossed one or two of the bridges, and they kind of go somewhat up the ridge that we had ascended earlier. And then they come directly in our line of sight, so like across the front of the tent. And it's like, it's military people on a hike, or I don't know what their purpose is, but they're armed. The flashlight is like on the barrel of a gun. I don't even know. I mean, probably. It's a good amount of people, like 20 something, maybe, that seems right. And they're just in file, and we're just quiet as fuck. I don't say a thing. I'm sure they saw us, but they just go on and they go past.
Are they in uniform?
Yeah, I believe they were. Yeah, because that's like, yeah. I mean, it was dark, right? But the moon was out, and they had lights, and they had guns, and yeah, pretty sure there was like, I don't know what you call the apparel, but there might have been camo. I mean, it appeared to be green, and there appeared to be patches that were indicative of military. But like, again, it was dark and couldn't really tell. But it was definitely people, 20 plus, young dudes with guns, and they just hiked away. But again, that was still the most concerning part of it all for me, to be honest. And maybe that's just from watching too many movies, but also maybe, like, I don't know.
What were you thinking?
What I was thinking was, I was simply trying to look for anything that would seem like this group of people were, one, noticing we were there, and then two, like where they would advance toward us. So if I saw either one of those things, then like, I don't know, man. I just was hoping neither one of those two things was going to happen. But again, I'm sure they did notice that we were there. I mean, I was just mostly, again, in some sort of astonishment and awe, because that seemed curious, just that happened right after seeing all these other things.
So what did you guys talk about at that point?
We might have spoken a little bit like, well, that's weird that the government is here at this time, after we've just seen that. Maybe they know about this. Maybe they're looking for this. Maybe they were alerted somehow that we, not that we specifically saw, but that there was a manifestation of some sort of phenomenon. Maybe that's the thing. But yeah, and then I just remember sleeping, and again, I'm like right now as I'm telling this, I'm maybe like speaking with more fatigue, but that's just because I'm tired today and I got things to do. But no, then during that time, I was actually pretty happy to just like see something that seemed miraculous. So I was still giddy, but I was like ready to sleep. And then we woke up, we pitched the tent, or not pitched it, we put it back away. And then we went and got breakfast after leaving, went back to our lives. Now, there were also strange things that continued when we got home, which is like again, I don't even necessarily want to mention, because
please.
Okay. I mean, like, because these are things that like I am not purporting to have a direct relation to, but there are things that haven't happened to me until after this event. One of those things, and again, this could be like something, maybe I'm just aging, maybe I've been listening to things, but like maybe the volume's been too loud in the headphones, I don't know, but about like it might have been within a couple days after or a week after, I have ringing in my ears, and it continues from that point onward until now, 2023. It stopped here and there, or I don't notice it maybe for a week or two or a month, but I've never had a consistent ringing. I did have migraines when I was a kid, and had a little bit of vertigo here and there, usually preceding or after migraines, usually preceding, I think. But that was mostly a childhood thing. This ringing shit is, and I'm saying that because it like took me a while to get used to. It was not fun. That was something that I noticed, and it was consistent, and it was daily. Also, the whole dream shit, like, definitely had a few. I'd have to look at, because I wrote them down, but there were definitely some weird ones. I'm mentioning them because it was waking up from a couple of these dreams where there were a lot of noticeably curious things. like this, the classical or medieval painting, not medieval painting, but like maybe it's Renaissance, but like the nightmare thing where there's a figure sitting on your chest, feeling like there was one where it felt like something was breathing in my fucking lungs. Like I didn't necessarily, just saying I struggle to breathe wouldn't really capture the feeling that I had. It was like something was opening and closing my lungs and I couldn't move. And I know that happened more than once. And I know that one of those times there was also a strange sort of sulfurous smell. Like, I haven't looked into this, but I know mentioning it now too, and also having been around somebody that has done the research, like apparently that's something that can be relative to whatever, some sort of phenomena. I don't know, but I just had this feeling after leaving that forest that with the ringing and with this, like these number of nightmares and sleep paralysis, that like that something had somehow gotten attached or something, or we had been I don't know, man. See, I don't even want to bring up some of this shit because it's not as specific as to witnessing what happened in the forest in the daytime. It's just like those have been relatively unpleasant, those few things. And they've definitely, like, that was mostly like in the weeks and months to follow. The ringing is something that's just kept on going. Yeah. Like, again, that's why overall I even though like it's a curious thing to tangle with how or whether you want to mention this at all, and like in general, I just feel kind of lucky that I got to view something like this. That's it. Because I know it may never happen again, and like to predict how to view it, I don't know.
My last question is, this story's really out there. Like, what do you tell people who have trouble wrapping their mind around or believing something like this?
As far as coming to know anything, I think the first state of mind must be openness to potential, because from what I understand, there's probably a lot of like psychiatric cases that go into this sort of discussion or interest because they need something to attach themselves to. But I think you at least have to be open to the statement that the nature of reality is a continually evolving understanding, and that will never end, regardless of what math and physics conclude as far as certainties. Like, you can't be certain of what is uncertain, and what information is outside the scope of registering or understanding. So, in hearing it, the first thing they're going to want to do is just question the nature of that person. So that is an easier thing to do. I can say that first I had at least openness because I had my background, but then secondly, I had the knowing of the person that went through this experience. I know this person quite well. And then I had the actual experience. So that last part, there's no substitute for that. So unfortunately, yeah, I get tired just talking about it. I'm realizing as I'm going, I hope I didn't come off agitated or anything like that. I don't know. It was a strange enough thing to process, and that also probably means it like when does that end, the processing of it? Again, if there's like things that I'm noticing that are continuing, like this ear ringing, like I don't know what that indicates, but the recounting of it, the really good friends that just can't buy it or want to give some sort of particular outlier indicator that would make this all not real or fabricated. That's not fun. I mean, it sucks when a close friend is like, nah, man, but whatever. I don't like, there's other tenets that the friendship is based on that are very valid. So I don't worry about this. And I also understand how this can be, how it can come across, because I was in that position not too long ago. So
my final question is, so you've gone multiple times and seen stuff. Like, hypothetically, if I went out there, if I said, Alex, can you take me out there? What are the chances are that I would see something?
Probably 80%. I'd say. I have seen...
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I've experienced something weird every single time I've been out there. I have not seen the orbs every time. I've seen the orbs probably, like 80% of the time. That's why I say that. But, I mean, like, if you stay out there long enough and you stay after dark, you're gonna have something weird happen. Like, as, I don't want to say that as a rule, but that has been my experience. And the people that I've brought have had experiences every time that I've brought them out there. So, yeah, I mean, I'd say pretty high likelihood.
I guess that's something I'm gonna have to think about then, I guess. We'll see. All right. Thank you to Julian and Alex for telling us that story. Like I said in this episode, there is thermal footage recorded in the Uhwarrie forest very near where Alex camped. And this footage seems to capture some kind of large creature peeking out behind trees and disappearing in the same way that they described. It moves very strange, and it's quite large. It's honestly eerie to watch this footage. I'll put a link to it in the description. You can watch it for yourself and see what you think. And I actually spoke to a friend who's active duty military about all of this. And he told me that the Special Forces do indeed conduct training operations in those woods very regularly. In fact, there's a base in the Uhwarries. And, I was never confused by the presence of the military. It is odd that they showed up, but for me, I was really curious to see if I could talk to anybody that trained in the Uhwarries, because you have to wonder, what have all of those guys seen? I mean, they're out there doing these marches in the middle of the night in this area where Alex and Julian have gone multiple times and seen something. You have to assume that they've at least seen something strange while walking around there at night. But unfortunately, my friend said that the Special Forces guys are not the type of people who are down to talk about anything, let alone the things I wanted to talk to them about. So for now, I guess I'll just have to wonder. That brings us to the end of this story for now. I was a little unsettled by how confident Alex was about me being able to see something if I went out with them. There's a lot of bad TV shows out there dedicated to people allegedly looking for this stuff, all with very little results, mind you. And, it's in our nature to want answers, I guess. But when it really comes down to it, and I have a story that I believe and have a real opportunity where maybe I could go out and see something like this, and I really think about it and consider it, and I consider what these two went through after experiencing what they did. Specifically, Julian talking about still having ringing in his ears. I'm not sure I would really want to go through that myself. It seems like kind of a lose-lose, especially for how traumatized Alex was after that first trip. But even if it terrifies me, I don't know, that might be something that I'll have to do for the sake of the show. We'll just have to see. Like I've said before, Otherworld is just getting started, so maybe I do need to go out there with these guys. But with that, it brings us to the end of the episode. This has been episode 34, the Uhwarries Part 2, and you've been listening to Otherworld. Otherworld is hosted and executive produced by myself, Jack Wagner. Our theme song is by Cobra Man. The soundtrack of this episode is by North Americans. Editing and engineering by Theo Schaefer. The artwork for our show is by Cul-de-sac Studios. This is an independent show, so please show us your support by subscribing, leaving a 5-star review, and telling your friends. If you want to hear more episodes and support the show, you could do so at patreon.com/otherworld. If you want to follow us on social media, we're at OtherworldPod on Instagram and Twitter. And finally, if you or somebody you know has experienced something paranormal, supernatural, or unexplained, please send us that story at stories@otherworldpod.com.